Let's talk about effects. They're one of those things that when used correctly, about 80% of them aren't really noticeable. It just makes you sound flat out better. There's those that are really obvious, like if you're singing through a giant megaphone or something like that, that your crowd might actually notice it. But a lot of them just put you in a physical space, sweeten the sound of the way that you come forth to the audience. They help you cut through the mix, all that kind of stuff. There's two things involved with effects. Often, they're done at the front of the house. So they're done where the mixer is by the sound person, or they might be built into the mixer that you're using yourself. The other way that you can have effects is you can bring your own. So typically, the sound person is going to be maybe adding some reverb to your voice. Reverb is just the sound of a physical space that's emulated by a processor. It does some sort of fancy math calculations and says, hey, this is what it sounds like to sing in a bathroom. This is what it sounds like to sing in the Grand Canyon. And picking which effect is appropriate for the song can actually make a huge difference. If you go see a giant concert, they might be switching effects constantly throughout the show to make sure that that song sounds like that song sounded on the record in that particular stadium and all that kind of stuff. In smaller locations, you might just have a little bit of reverb to deal with. Could be on the board. This one doesn't have anything built in. So in this case, I might want to bring something with me that allows me to choose the sound that I want. So in this case, I can choose a sound of a reverb. I can actually use some pitch correction. I can have this unit itself automatically do things like equalization. So equalization is, in sort of more layman terms, it's the bass and the treble. It's how muffly does it sound versus how crispy does it sound. That sounded a little bit hilarious, but anyways, it's how much of the S's and all that kind of stuff come through, and balancing that out, not having too much of that woofiness, will allow your voice to cut through the mix. And it's interesting, as a little side note, for any of you who have spent time in a recording studio, sometimes when you just listen to the track that was recorded, it can sound quite weird by itself because it's been equalized all over the place to fit in with the rest of the instruments and the rest of the music that's going on. The same thing can happen with these live things. You can actually do some pretty big changes to the way that your voice sounds, but when it comes in with everything else, it sounds great and it really fits in. So remember, when you're using effects, sometimes less is more. And if there are no effects there, you are perfectly capable of bringing your own. There are tons of products out there that you can look into, that you can grab that really give the power to you. And that's just another thing to go back to the etiquette with the sound person, is just letting them know that you've got this unit and you're going to need to work together to integrate it into the show.